Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. And this is Mary, also known as Sierra02. And I will just start off by saying that what I see and what I dream, I cannot 100% say for certainty that this is going to happen. I only tell people what I see and what I hear and what I feel. And time determines whether or not it happens, along with God. That being said, I was asleep and I had a dream about being in a different place, and it was a very mixture of various things. But the problem is, in certain places around the country there are fires going on. So I'm quite sure that that was in my mind when I had this dream. The other part of my dream, of course, I'm into politics as well. So I saw things related to politics. What I saw was the reference in the dream was this was the first area of previous place of a White House. In other words, it was like the headquarters. And the thing about symbolism in dreams is that you kind of have to really just focus in on what could this mean. So I would just give you the different levels of symbolism. One, the name of the company on the old White House was Taco Bell. Beside this replica of nearly similar to the White House was big hotels and buildings, as if it was like connected to the White House, and that you had a headquarters. And it was kind of like when you go to a headquarters for a big company, you can see that it's a massive structure, just, very business oriented, very fancy. And this particular place had Taco Bell as the name on the building, but it looked similar to the White House. And then it had real tall buildings, like hotel structures, like maybe a place where people stayed, maybe if they came to visit for business, and or it could have been the buildings connected to the headquarters, where one may have been like a convention center possibly, which I personally think was what the replica White House part was. And then the rest of the building was basically where all the corporate individuals worked. But the problem was, it was considered to be the first White House. It was not the actual White House. Problem was, it was on fire. And I said, why would I see Taco Bell on the building, then huge buildings beside it, like skyscrapers that corporate offices may be in, and or hotels could be, and why was it considered the first headquarters or first consideration of the White House, but actually not the White House? And there are a couple of things that you can get from it. If you focus in on the Taco Bell part, the symbolism of a taco is coming from a foreign area. We know that some of these foreign places could be clearly down south or anywhere else. We also know that we have people who have businesses that are headquarters, and they have corporate areas where maybe people can come and visit and stay. And the dangerous part about this, that you can kind of look at this in multiple ways. You could say, okay, you have the White House, you have the buildings that are very tall, and then they're right connected to it. And so let's think about it. You have the first White House. It's not the actual White House, but it was a very nice building with huge buildings near it, similar in color scheme beside it, as if it were connected. And so, let's think about this. If you really want to be specific, you could say, well, everything about what the White House that it symbolizes is pretty much no longer there. In other words, when we think about the White House, we think about leadership. the presidency. We look at one of the symbolisms of American democracy. That is essentially not going to be what is happening at this point. We know that our country is not really a democracy anymore. It being on fire, that first representation of the White House, not the actual White House, there's a deterioration of what makes us who we are. But we also have wildfires going on in the country. But we can also go back to historical facts about foreigners coming in, attacking the symbols of American democracy. But we also looking at high-rise structures that maybe corporate people can be at, and or people staying in a hotel. You look at a lot of headquarters and a lot of locations, you're either going to be in Florida or you're going to be in New York. Okay? Then we have the fact that there were a lot of different people gathered in some of these areas. Some young, mostly young people, but a little older people too. And some of them had the opportunity to leave, some of them didn't. They were trying to lock some people down and not have them leave, depending on how old they were. But if you were not a resident or weren't located specifically to that location, you could come and go as you please. That's kind of weird. I don't really know what that was about. But the other part of that is we're putting tariffs on Mexico this week. And again, the Taco Bell part, and this is not being ethnocentric, this is not being derogatory or anything like that. This is just, again, out of all the business names that could have been put on the building, it was Taco Bell. But the other part of this problem is this. If you go and look at historical locations where people of certain ethnicities, some of the things they like to indulge in as far as their food, and then you're looking at down south, you got pretty much essentially the first White House that is not the White House. And one may say, well, could this be a person's place they like to go that is in the southern part of the country, not too far from people of that type of ethnicity? Or is this something associated with the tariffs that is going to affect the country more than anyone really thought? And then too, are we going to see certain types of things going on in the country, aside from the fact that we're having these wildfires going on? Are we going to start seeing things in the country where people are going to start acting wild and crazy because they're paying more prices for the food or for the products or for the cars, whatever the case? I don't know. I'm just telling you what I saw. It was said it was the first White House, but not the actual White House. Beside it were buildings, like it was a headquarters or a place where someone can stay. Big old convention, like auditorium type location, and then a very tall buildings on the side. The color was like a light rust, brown, tan, and white, but not pure white. It was like basically like a light off white, almost slightly with a touch of brown, but not quite. It was a combination of those colors. And so that's why I said I don't know exactly what it means, but to me, we have to kind of pay attention to what's going on in the world and what's going on in the news. And I don't see nothing positive about it, honestly, when I see anything on fire, you know. It's just never good. The only thing that comes to my mind when I think about something like this is Revelations 18. I recommend people read it in its entirety so that they can understand some of the things that are unfolding in the world. But I don't really have a good feeling about it. Sometimes it could just be a combination of dreams. They come from a multitude of things, but sometimes it's a warning.